The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 8. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of successful women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Subscribe to our newsletter by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today's show we have a very special guest. I consider her one of my closest friends, one of my best friends. I'm not sure if you ever met somebody for the first time and you knew you just hit it off. You laugh together, you share stories, and you have so much in common. Well, this person, that's how I feel with her, right? I met her in January in Hawaii, right? We were having happy hour, drinks, Mai Tais at one of the places there, and we just were talking, laughing, having fun, just talking about life, and both of us have this passion to help women, step out of their comfort zone. Now, this woman is a mompreneur, she's a traveler, she's a blogger, she's just an amazing woman. So I'm gonna introduce this amazing woman. Her name is Yvette Frankel. And Yvette, if you're here today, I just want to ask you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Again, my name is Yvette Frankel, and you can find me at www.vettefrankel.com. And basically, I'm a wellness warrior. I'm a mompreneur. I'm a single mom, basically who is I have a lifestyle blog, and I just basically help women and single parents especially, because I am one, recreating a life of wellness and recreating a life on their terms.
That is awesome. Thanks for sharing that little tidbit. So I just wanted to ask you some questions. First off, What's your cultural background?
Yeah, my cultural background is I'm Filipino.
Okay, so you're pure Filipino. Were you born and raised in the Philippines?
Pure Filipino, whatever really that means, you know what I mean? Because there's such a spectrum of Filipinos, you know what I'm saying? But I was born in the States. And so even my Filipino friends who have been, apparently I've been told that even though I'm quote-unquote Filipino, I've never been to the Philippines yet, but that I thought I would blend in. Most people say, no, that you're not going to blend in, because apparently there is a difference between being an Americanized Filipino and not. But, I mean, culturally speaking and clearly ethnically speaking, yes, I am of Filipino descent.
That's awesome. So what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
Oh, wow. My favorite self-confidence quote. Okay, literally off the cuff, the first one that comes to mind, I'm not sure who this comes from or what the deal is, but basically one of the best self-confidence quotes that I have encountered and that I still use to this day is, if it scares you and if you're scared to do it, good, because you need that in order to become courageous.
I like that. That's an amazing quote to share with the listeners. So in your own terms, what is your definition of self-confidence? And again, at 41, this has changed. I think especially as women, I think our ideas of self-confidence can change. I think my idea of self-confidence maybe when I was 20 is certainly different now that I'm 41, with different circumstances, different age, the whole deal is different. So my idea, of self-confidence, and again, at the risk of sounding cliche, my idea of self-confidence these days is just being comfortable in my own skin and not giving a shit, or not giving too much of a shit, because it's sure you think about it, but not giving too much of a shit what people think or say to deter me from what I feel is best in terms of doing or taking a certain action. I like that. Just not giving a shit, right? I mean,
just not giving a shit, or not giving a shit to the extent that it's going to shrink you or prevent you from doing something that in your heart of hearts, if you really gave it some time to think about or really feel, that it's not going to prevent you from taking whatever actions that you feel you need to take.
Awesome. I love that. It's short and simple, and sometimes as women, we do care about these things, right? And sometimes we just gotta go out there and just be like, what, I don't give a shit what people think. I'm gonna do whatever I want and be able to live the life that I want, right?
And it's hard to do that. I mean, it sounds good, doesn't it, Sheena? It sounds so good to say, oh, gee, don't give a shit. Do what you feel is right. Well, I don't know about other women. It's like at first it sounds, wow, that sounds really shiny, and wow, that sounds great. But then I have this feeling of, oh, okay. When in fact, yeah, you're going to care. To a certain extent you are, especially if you're sensitive. And as a female, and as women, we're not trying not to be insensitive, but to be willing to say, you know what? I recognize that, whatever the case might be, but I'm not going to give too much of a shit because I'm still going to do what I'm going to do anyway. But thanks anyway, type of thing. That type of an attitude versus, gee, just don't give a shit. I'm like, yeah, that's like telling a kid to stop crying. That never works. When you tell a kid to stop crying and they're literally in the middle of a meltdown, telling a kid to stop crying when they're having a meltdown, at least in my scenario, does not work and does not help. They end up throwing at the biggest temper tantrum ever. And I don't think we're much different as adults. We just like to think we are.
I love it. Do you see why I have her as guest? Because she's freaking hilarious. Like, seriously, she makes me laugh all the time. And she comes up with the best stuff in these aha moments, which is why I had to bring her onto the show. So, Yvette, let's get on to the next question.
Oh, baby, bring it.
Okay, what was your life like before you had your discovery of self-confidence?
Oh, gosh, my life. What was my life like before like you said, like that aha moment? I wish I could say that it was grueling and it was so hard, because in many ways, whenever I hear stories of that really motivates me, or that I really find like, wow, that person or woman or man or whatnot, especially as a woman, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing that this female, I mean, pertaining to to your show here, that's amazing. But the interesting thing about that, and I will get to your point, to your question, but my point is, looking back, I find that for myself and even many other women, when it came to having a compelling story or something that was motivating, I thought, wow, I'm putting it in simplistic terms, wow, if my life didn't completely suck, literally like third world, oh my gosh, practically apocalyptic, then I really don't have much to say or a story or who's going to care, including me. So my point is, and I think that really prevents people from really taking proper action, because I think there's this gray area where we all get a little comfortable. If that makes sense. Or we all get a little comfortable. Maybe it's not particularly all that healthy, but it's not too bad either. We like to tell ourselves these things. So that's where I was. I was in this position where, on the surface, I was married, and certainly in the definition of married of what I thought or was taught or indoctrinated to believe, wow, you are in a quote unquote good position. You're married to someone who can provide for you. You're married and this type of thing. And then I went into this whole deal of, wow, why am I so dissatisfied? Then the guilt went in there. Oh my gosh, maybe I'm just ungrateful. I should be so grateful for all these things. I mean, I'm living the dream of what most women want. They want to be taken care of. I didn't have to work. I didn't have to do any of these things. And I still felt this gnawing at my soul. And I felt really guilty for it, because as much as I was grateful for it, and I still am. In fact, my former my co-parent and I like to call him that, or my former husband, and I were better friends now. But my point is that I still felt like there was something so empty and so missing, that I felt like I was living up to everyone else's expectations and standards that I thought I had bought into, but clearly with my dissatisfaction, there was something completely awry. Something so wrong. I got bored. I got angry. And yeah, some people might even say, oh yeah, poor little rich wifey poo doesn't know how to live her life, even though everything is handed to her. Here's the thing though, handed to you or not, no matter what it looks like, if I found that no matter what the story looks like, what the outside is, and more importantly, whatever people's perceptions are of your life, if you feel trapped, you feel trapped. If you feel limited, you feel limited. If you feel like you're in some dismal position, regardless of how glittery the outside might be, it's still dismal. So my aha moment was when I was having a discussion with my co-parent, and I was asking him at the time when we were married, wow, what do you want in a wife? I thought it was me. What does he want in a wife? Like, what do you want in a partner in life? What are we doing here? What do you want? Am I going to be able to fulfill this? And again, we can go down that rabbit hole of as if it's a female's job to make someone else happy. We can go down that rabbit hole another time. But the whole idea of I had this discussion with, what is that you want in a life partner? And again, I say this in protection of my friend and co-parent. I say this respectfully, but this is where we were at the time. Let's just say that at the time he went through literally like a checklist of all of these roles. Okay, whether it's someone to do this with, someone who does this, someone who does that. He went through this whole checklist, and it dawned on me like a pile of bricks that hit me from a 5-story building saying, wow, the things that are important to him are basically roles that can be easily replaced, and they're just roles. It really didn't have anything to do with me. They were just roles that could be filled by anybody. And that freaked the shit out of me, because that clearly, even though I didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted in terms of a relationship or in terms of what I wanted, I thought to myself, whoa, I have to completely redefine this, because if I felt at the time so replaceable, so dispendable, because it was just a role that this particular person wanted, I didn't want to have my identity and my well-being in the hands of someone who basically at the time what I thought, who I could be easily replaced, because they're just roles, if that's what's important to a person. So that was my aha moment, because I got scared. I got the shit scared out of me, because I'm thinking this is not what I signed up for, no matter what it looks like on the outside, and I have to reconfigure everything. Long and winded, but I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, this happens a lot, right? Married couples, the wife has to play some type of role, and sometimes it looks pretty and glittery, and it's like the perfect family out there, and they don't know behind closed doors they might be getting abused, they might be getting controlled by the husband, might not have control over money, might be having side chicks over here and there, or children from
and no
the
one
outside.
Talks about that stuff. Exactly, Sheena, exactly. And again, I don't want to put a negative vibe on today's topic, but I think, like you said, I think it's important to touch base on it just for the fact of lending contrast. Because I think these are things, Sheena, that a lot of people don't want to talk about. These are things that literally people don't talk. You know how many women have come up to me since my divorce? And of course, I would never shame them, or I understand, but literally people have come up to me in private conversation discussing basically their private hell. Like, you know how many women are so medicated, whether it's on wine or prescription drugs, because they just don't know how to deal. They feel so trapped. And again, I'm not blaming men for this, and I want to be very clear on that, where or I've seen women even at some events where they define themselves as their roles. Like, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a this, and that's all great, but that's not who you are. That's not who we are. They are roles that we play, that we can bring our essence to, right? But they're not us. And I think a lot of women, and even men, or whatever roles, I think people really get this conception. They start to think that self-description is job description or role description, which is not the case. And otherwise, why would you see so many people living their private hells of whether they're medicated, whether doing this or doing that, and they're really not happy? And you see them all the time. They have this, this lifeless, glazed look in their eye that everyone can identify with to one extent or another, but it's just a matter of if there are going to be some people who actually do something about it or change it. And I think I'd like to think that that's what your show is all about, and that's what our discussion can maybe help address. And again, not to keep it negative, but again, I think these are important points to bring up just to provide contrast.
Thanks, Yvette. And I don't see them as negative context. I see them as, showing awareness to the women out there who are listening to this, because sometimes we might not be aware of our circumstances. And if someone doesn't point them out, no one will ever know. And sometimes we need to bring this out so we can find a solution to this. So like you mentioned your aha moment was when your husband decided to make a checklist of what he wanted in a wife, and you got scared because that's not the role you wanted to play. I mean, what did you do after that?
Basically, some other events happened. And again, I'm not here to shame anyone. I took full responsibility for my role in this, in our marriage. But let's just say that there were certain events that happened. I mean, I'm okay and everything like that. It's not about that. But let's just say they were self-defining moments, right? Self-defining moments where you think, wow, we can either choose to turn the cheek, right, and ignore it. And I know a lot of women do. I know I did. I can say that because I did. I turned the other cheek. I chose to ignore because, my goodness, I was raised, don't rock the boat, Yvette. You're supposed to be the peacekeeper. Don't rock the boat. That's not very ladylike, Yvette. Put your lipstick on and put a smile on, Yvette. All these things that I know I personally was indoctrinated in. And hey, I can cross my ankles and sit up straight and wear lipstick just like the next wifey poo or whatnot. And again, I don't poo-poo that, but let's be fucking real here. That is not a soulful, delicious existence. And I'm willing to say, and I'm willing to put it out there, there are fantastically, wonderfully I'm not the only one who has the intelligence. There are so many beautifully intelligent, deep, creative women out there who can still identify with what I'm talking about, but maybe they're just not used to finding that part of themselves. And I'd like to think that they can still find that part of themselves, that in a way, that kind of wild nature that we each have in each of us as women. Men may not understand it, but that's cool. They're not supposed to. They're just supposed to love and celebrate us, period. They don't have to understand us. Hell, I can hardly understand myself at times. But the point is that to engage that part. And I think that we as women, we can do so much more in a creative capacity and redefine a lot of things that I think we have been indoctrinated into that can help us as parents, help us as women, help us bring the changes that I feel. I know that sounds very esoteric in a macro level, but we as women, we have to think differently and be differently and do differently to help encourage and bring those changes about into the world that at least I personally feel that are desperately needed. And it's not going to be by doing and thinking in the old ways that perhaps we might have been indoctrinated and raised into.
Thank you so much. And I believe the same, right? We have to start thinking differently. I understand that sometimes we were brought up a certain way, and, our past generations or parents or grandparents were also brought up a certain way, and they're just doing what they know, right? But now that you're listening to this, you know something different. You know there's another way, a possible way. It's time to start, thinking differently, taking action on your own life, right? And like Yvette, she could have turned the other cheek, right? And pretended to be the dutiful wife, not make any noise, don't rock the boat. But she decided something else, right? She wanted more in her life, and, she went out there and got it. So, now that you obviously you're not with your husband anymore, right? But you guys have a great relationship together, co-parenting your child. What's your life like now after that discovery of self-confidence?
Oh my gosh, now and it's still. I also want to say that it's still a work in progress. I always want to put that disclaimer because I would never want to be inauthentic or say that. Oh, gee, my life is so great and I just run around farting glitter. The end. No, I mean, come on, right?
I just like farting glitter.
Yeah, right. You like that visual, like me, like running through grass fields in slow motion with glitter coming out of my bottom. I mean, come on, right? No, it's a moving target, people. It's a moving target, and I just have to laugh. And it's not that I don't believe people's lives are great, but I'm thinking, I would really appreciate the little disclaimers or the asterisks or the postscript saying, you know what? This is what my life is like at this moment and for the most part. But please don't think that I don't still face bullshit and shit and trials and tribulations and frustrations. So I want to make that abundantly clear before I tell you how, for the most part, my life now is definitely, it is on my terms. And I don't mean to say that in a selfish, mean way, but there's something to be said where I'm finally in a place in my life where I can sit back, and if something comes across the table, so to speak, in my life, I can say, you know what, no thank you, and smile and not have to apologize. I was always the one apologizing for like bumping into someone or taking up space. And that's even something that we as women, like again, how we speak, like I see so many women and I can see myself where it was almost a default where if I bumped into someone, I would say, or if I was in the way of something, I would automatically say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, for what? I didn't do anything wrong. I'm pretty deep. Or do we as women have to apologize for taking space? Are you fucking kidding me? What year is this? So therefore, like, I have to consciously think to myself, I'm not going to apologize for bumping into someone or taking up space. I'll say, excuse me, but it's like those little words, those little play on words. I think they have profound underpinnings to them if we don't realize that. And again, I'm going off on tangent. I'm coming back though. I'm back. My life now is definitely life on my terms. My life now with my co-parent especially. And again, I bring him up because I'm really proud of him. I'm proud of us, and I'm so proud of what we've cultivated, especially for the well-being of our son. We can actually look back and laugh at things that we used to fight like horribly over. I'm in a position where I can apologize for things that perhaps I didn't realize that I was kind of a pain in the butt about because I was unhappy. And even here, and he even says, it's okay. You weren't very happy, and neither was I. And it's beautiful to get to the point in a relationship where you can really know that you've evolved and grown, because you can look back with grace and forgiveness in your heart about past things that really, really you thought were, oh my God, this is terrible. This makes this person shitty, when really maybe the dynamic just had to be redefined and tweaked a little bit. or a lot, who knows? You just don't know. So that's essentially what my life is now. My life is, I guess I could maybe, to put it more briefly, is just keywords. My life is grounded. My life is free. My life is tranquil. My life has adventure. My life is loving. My life is forgiving. My life is expansive at this point. And more importantly, it's full of possibility. And I would wish that upon anyone, if that's something that they want. I mean, everyone can have, I call them core desired feelings, but people can hopefully get to the place in their life where if they sink their teeth into how they really want to feel, and then build their life around that, or tweak the relationships if necessary around those things. Does that make sense?
For sure, right? I mean, all those words, tranquil, grounded, free, I mean, these are the type of things that most women want. And sometimes they just don't know how. And, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to create this, is to show proof that it's possible, right? It's possible for you to do that, right? Sometimes you just need to hear one person's story, hear what they have to say, because maybe you can relate to it, and it could be your aha moment to find your inner journey to self-confidence. So Yvette, thank you so much. And I just have a couple more questions for you.
Please. I'm enjoying this so much, talking with you.
I love it. If you were to give advice to any woman out there on their own journey of self-confidence, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a yummy one. Ooh, it's so yummy. A tip for someone on their journey of self-confidence. I would have to say the one that really, really comes to mind is be careful what you choose to tolerate, because what you choose to tolerate, you get more of. Be careful what you choose to tolerate, because what you choose to tolerate is what you get more of. I would have to say that is really one of the most profound ones that I've ever been blessed to have received, because that can be applied in so many ways and in so many levels to a woman's life. Because let's face it, I don't know about other women, but I know I certainly was indoctrinated to tolerate a lot. And it's not for our well-being. And I think it has so many underpinnings to it that if whatever we choose to tolerate, we get more of. And I've seen more cases that none. It's extremely debilitating and soul-sucking. The things that I had in the past chosen to tolerate, and I take responsibility for that. But also for other women to take responsibility and to take their stand into saying, you know what, this or that, A, B, or C, whatever the case might be, that this is what I will no longer tolerate, and to not again apologize for it. Yeah, I'm sorry, no, but to set those boundaries, but to set those healthy boundaries. For oneself, I think is so important.
Love what you said, what you tolerate is what you get. And women have to realize, we tolerate a lot of stuff, right? Because we're told to. And there's a point in your time where you just have to say, enough is enough. I have to think about me as well, so I can inspire others, so I can live the life that I want, live the life that I choose to, and be happy. Be happy, be at peace with myself.
Precisely.
So, Yvette, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate what you've shared. I know the listeners out there are going to love you because I love you, and you're just amazing. And, if they want to know how to contact you or where to find you, is there a website or any social media platforms that you use that they can search you on?
Absolutely. Well, where they can find me on the web, my blog is www.vettefrankel.com. That's V as in Victor, E-T-T-Y, because that's my nickname when, my dearest friends call me Vetty, vettefrankel.com, and Yvette Frankel on Instagram, and on Facebook, it's my name, my maiden name, and our son's last name, Yvette Martin Frankel on Facebook.
That's awesome. So listeners, just head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Yvette's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I want to thank Yvette for sharing her journey with us. Yvette, thank you again.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was such a privilege. Thanks so much for having me.
Honestly, it's an honor to have you here. And to the listeners out there, tune in for another awesome episode of another woman's amazing journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you later. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. Check out our resources to help you jumpstart your inner journey to self-confidence by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com.